Hello, dear listener. I have something truly special to share. It's an exclusive invitation to join me in Mexico for an intimate and luxurious 3-day retreat along the beautiful Pacific coast of Zihuatanejo, taking place the weekend of the spring equinox, March 18th through the 20th. There's also an optional day to stay through the 21st for some special ceremonies that are happening in the area for the equinox. But the retreat itself is the 18th through the 20th, really an opportunity not to be missed. And I'm offering one lucky listener a discounted ticket on this weekend that I've just been loving into being actually for several years now as COVID and, everything. But when we conceived of building this place, our home down here, it's really what we envisioned, bringing people down here for retreats, for trainings, because we felt and we knew that this space was special. And as people keep coming down and we keep getting the feedback, how magical it is, we want to share it in a really intentional way. Be working with the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, the metaphors of the season. We'll set sight on a new vision for our mothering journey and creating a deeper connection to self and Mother Nature. So to win a discounted ticket, rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Screenshot it and DM it to me on Instagram at Dr. Gertrude Lyons. And remember, the most important thing to mother is yourself. Give yourself permission to take a retreat this year. And besides, who said mothers can't go on a spring break? I'll see you there.
This is a Soulfire production. Welcome to Mother. No, it's Mother. Welcome to Mother, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way you never have before, but have always needed. It's time we rewrite the Mother Code. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Mother. I'm Dr. Gertrude Lyons, and together we are rewriting the Mother Code. Today's episode is beyond special to me, truly, because I share the mic with our 2 daughters, Morgan and Hannah. And I will tell you, it took some time to get this set up and done. Yes, we are all very busy adults with very full lives, but I'm aware that we've also felt really vulnerable. But we jumped in and did it, and I'm super grateful that they were willing to play. This episode is airing a couple days before National Take Your Kids to Work Day on April 22nd. So we use that as a jumping off point to explore working mothers and the codes we write in our children. And since I was a working mother, there were only a few years on my mothering journey where I was not working outside the home because doing paid work, because mothers are working all the time. Without talking ahead of time or preparing any answers, I opened the discussion sharing, with them how I was recalling that I never took them to my office on Take Your Kids to Work Day. I didn't think it was a good thing to do because I was actually, in coaching sessions a fair amount. And what were they going to do? Just sit around? But it really was a missed opportunity. So in doing this podcast, it allowed me to, explore, look back, have feelings about, some of the choices that I made. And then I invited them, to share what was it like to have a working mom, positive and negative. And they jumped right in. And what I'm hoping for you, my listeners, is to get a sense of the journey of choices made in mothering through the whole continuum. And the mutual journey we're on all the time, with our children or those who we're close to and, who we're choosing to mother, and that there's impacts of those choices. But those impacts aren't a test. They're not did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? No, they're just choices. That's what they are. And we make them, as consciously. And that's a lot of what, I work on here is that I want us to make those choices as discerned and deep and critical thinking kind of place. And then even if we didn't, that's okay too, but we can still learn from them. So us coming together allowed us to explore and look at and see some places that were both beautiful and painful. As always, I hope it opens up a space for you to honor the choices you're making on your mothering journey today, in the future, and to provide a space for you to explore not only the specific topic, should I work or not if I'm a mother of children, but all of the many choices we encounter every day. Okay, without further ado, let's jump in. All right, so welcome Morgan and Hannah to my podcast.
Yay. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. It's been a while to get us going, but we did it. So I'm proud of us. Yay.
And we're here.
Woohoo.
We are all together making
We
it
are.
work.
So there's lots of things, like when I thought about doing a podcast with the two of you or an episode, I'm hoping you'll keep it open for future ones, but lots of topics I'd love to explore with the both of you. But it turns out that one that's coming up this month that we're going to focus on is April 22nd is National Take Your Kids to Work Day. Woohoo. So just out of that got, me thinking about, you guys grew up in a household with two, for the most part, working parents. And when I thought about National Taking Kids to Work Day, I know I never took the two of you to work because I'm a coach. And what good would it do to take you to my work and then have you sit outside a coaching office because you couldn't come in the coaching room? But then I also felt sad. I'm like, well, there still was other things we could have done. And I don't know, it got me thinking a lot about then what was it like for the two of you? And I know we've had some conversations about this topic and a working mom. And I just wanted to open it up and see, from your perspectives, what was your experience? And then we'll explore from there. So what was your experience? And it could be about me, but also dad and having, working parents and what that was like.
Yeah, I think, there were definitely a lot of pros and cons. I loved when you're older, looking back on it, I loved having the role model of being able to do whatever you want when you're a mom. Like you can have the best of both worlds is what I mean. And I think it was really, it's really inspiring to be able to have that model in my life. But also, it was kind of hard at some times when I was home alone and I wanted to get a dog, especially when Morgan left, because it was sometimes lonely. But I learned a lot of independence. I learned a lot of good strategies and such for taking care of myself sometimes, which was, I think, an advantage.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of my friends who had stay-at-home moms, and it's hard to compare because they would have their moms make their lunches and be at everything and go shopping for them during the day. And at the time that meant everything. But now looking back, I'm definitely happy now that I'm in the working world too, to have had that role model. And I think it taught me a lot of independence with making my own lunch, with when I was old enough, taking the train by myself to school and kind of paving my own path. And I think that's kind of inspired a lot of choices that I've made with going to college farther away because I felt comfortable and didn't feel like I relied on you as much or was so enmeshed in our relationship, but knew I could still count on you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And we learned to be able to communicate when we're not together. You know what I mean? Like cross distances. And when you guys would go on trips, especially even pilgrimages, I had a lot of feelings about that when I was younger. I think we both did, and I would always get sick or whatever. But, I think that really translated into my adult life as like being okay with being alone and being able to provide for myself a little.
Yeah. I also think it was an example of a lot of tough decisions you had to make, choosing between your work and us sometimes. And still at the time didn't really understand that. And I'm like, well, why aren't you coming to my prom or every soccer game?
Yeah, exactly.
But looking back, it's like really is not as important in anything that I really did need you for. You were there. Still sad about prom. But.
No, I know. And, it's not like I feel like every decision I made was like, well, I know it was right. There were sometimes hard choices, sometimes well thought out choices, and sometimes choices that I knew would disappoint someone. It was either going to be you guys or, something related to work, or even if it wasn't exactly work related, it might've been, dad and me going, we had a commitment that we made to ourselves of doing a spiritual pilgrimage every year. And that meant, although Morgan did get to come on one when she was 7 weeks old, that meant, figuring out how to have you guys well taken care of while we were gone in the service of, and I always held like, I want this to have impact and meaning on the family. It wasn't never like, I got to get away from my kids, or
Oh, yeah.
Like, that feeling or whatever. But as I was thinking about doing this episode, I realized like, wow, one regret I have around it, I want to hear what you guys think, or if this would have made any difference, was having more conversations about, when I think about taking your kids to work day, it's so that you can get a real sense of, your parents' work and what they do. It isn't, they just go off. And I kind of regret not having more conversations about my work, or having you be even more part of it, or understanding it, or why it mattered, and not in a way to like make you like feel better, but just to have some of those conversations,
Like a dialogue about it.
Yeah.
I think that would have been helpful, just to feel a part of it, I guess. And that, like, you want us to know what you're doing when you're not with us, so that we can feel even like a little bit of connection or something with it.
I do remember, like, just this memory just popped into my head of sitting outside of one of your coaching sessions, and whoever you were with was expressing a lot and like yelling. And I like was sitting outside the door considering going in. I'm like, oh no, it's not okay. I gotta go help her.
Right.
But I remember then, I think we did, then I asked you about it and you're like, yeah, that's okay. That happens. And like, we got into a little dialogue about it, but definitely.
But that could have been cool. I mean, I know we tried to like bring some of the principles, into the family, but just even from a work perspective. And so, hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Zihuatanejo meaning land of the goddess women, and coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that, I am learning more and more, isn't just a nice thing to do, or something extravagant, or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously, to consider, just think about, what would it take for me to go? It's a 5.5-day retreat, getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, if that idea of leaving and not making it work, or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves, and that gift, and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up. But now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat. Before I go there, a question came into my mind. Like, I think Dad and I had a very kind of, I don't know if old fashioned is the right word, but definitely a traditional marriage. Even though I worked, he was considered the breadwinner. There was a very much a masculine, feminine thing going on that I would say was a more traditional marriage that way. And I wondered how you two saw that, what, like through your lens, and what differences that you saw in us and our work lives, and how, or if that impacted you.
Yeah, I think there was definitely some messaging just because I feel like it was clear for me at least that dad made more money and so then that sometimes made me devalue your work a little just because we didn't really talk about it as much. And then when you did, like we talked about before, make those hard decisions, I was like, well, why are you choosing this when it's not even making money over me? So I think that was tough. And I do think like while you both did work, you have a more flexible schedule. So were also able to be home more. So then that kind of created an illusion that dad works more, but you just work differently.
True. I agree. I think it was like semi-traditional, like when in comparison to other people when I was younger and, look at them and then look at us, it would be like the mom is either completely at home taking care of the kids or doing like a little side job because they were like bored, whereas you had a career more. And so that was just a difference. Like it wasn't totally working mom. It wasn't totally stay at home mom. It was like a blend, which I think was nice, sometimes hard because no one else could really relate in some ways. But it was also just like looking back, I just really respect your passion for it, I think, because you were going after your own desires. So I see that now. It was harder then when, you want your mom to be around all the time. Then that would have fostered like a weird reliance, like Morgan was kind of saying. I think it could have been almost too much, maybe. Dad, yeah, I agree with Morgan that it was definitely traditional in the way that he had the same hours every day, basically. He would travel more, like that was like his life more, but you kind of had to balance. It was different, more so than he did. And he wouldn't really put in the effort as much to come to games, some for sure, but things like that, I think were more traditional.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were, obviously you both know now, what I'm doing and what I speak about at Rewrite the Mother Code. And through that lens, like, what do you think you took away or learned or like codes that got written in the two of you around motherhood? And that can be anything, like it could be work related, but just in this conversation, what are some that you might even be aware of readily?
I would say when it comes to Morgan and I's relationship, you had a really effective way of letting us figure things out. You wouldn't step in too much and meddle. And I think that was really helpful for our relationship. As a mother, you wanted us to take responsibility and figure it out on our own to learn those type of strategies and problem solving. And I think that was really helpful. And you let us come to you with things. You were really not overbearing in the way that like you were constantly asking what we were doing with who, when, all the time. Like you put this trust in us that I think was really special and unique from other people that I really appreciated.
Yeah. And I think the traditional definition of motherhood is like giving everything to your kids. But I think something that you did well and with working is that you valued yourself too, mothered us and yourself. That helped us then be independent and foster our own relationships and pave their own paths. And I think that the mothering then was being there for us, but not controlling or giving us everything that we asked for in a good way.
So when you think about choices around mothering, and motherhood, which is having kids. And, I talk about that, as women, we can choose to mother children. We can also mother, careers and relationships and ideas and dreams. When you think about, down the line or that, like the concept of mothering or motherhood, which is definitely having kids, like what's your current thinking, wiring around that based on what, you grew up with or the culture and, any thoughts that you have around that?
I definitely think I have the power to do it on my own terms. And I think that came from you and came from how I don't have to conform to traditional mothering norms that are like Morgan said, like you give your child everything, you sacrifice your whole life for them and bend over backwards. And I can do it on my own terms.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that now I think more about mothering my own career and thinking about kind of the vision and also mothering my relationship and creating visions outside of just the traditional motherhood and how I can really nurture and cultivate a lot of deep relationships otherwise.
Yeah, and especially mothering myself in motherhood.
Oh, yeah. Say more about that.
The typical definition, the stereotype definition of mothering is doing it, like putting it on someone else instead of directing it towards yourself, like mothering someone instead of internally it has to be like for someone else's benefit instead of your own in our society, I would say. So I think like carrying that piece in with me is really important to be aware of, and not a lot of people don't discuss it a lot, which is why I think your work is so cool, because, you know, it seems like self-sacrifice instead of self-love in our society. And so I think that's going to be something I definitely am cognizant of.
Yeah, for sure. You know, just to say out loud, we're having this conversation on podcast in a way that we've never had ourselves before, you know, and spoken about this way. So I'm definitely aware that, you know, it's like, whoa, like what are they going to say, you know? And, I you know, I like what they're saying, but I also am aware that anything, you know, that is your experience. And I know we're going to continue that journey. And, you know, we've worked pretty hard as a family to have times where we really tell the truth to each other and share things that we liked and didn't like and along the way. But you know, that's super important.
I think that's a way that you brought your work home to us, even though we weren't actually in your office, but you brought a lot of the things that you would talk about in sessions or practices back to us, like the feelings game that we would play at our family dinners and stuff like that. So I do think we had a good understanding of some of the basic concepts of what your job was.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of a different way to look at it, right? Like
I also think if we didn't go on these mother-daughter, father-daughter family adventures, I would feel way more separated from your work. And so like that helped and helps me now know how important it is and how valuable it is and how I probably wouldn't be the same person without it. And so, you know, that really helped if I was ever struggling with you not being around. I think like you're following your passion and doing good for others. And
no, that's really cool. This may be the last question. I'm not promising, but it could be the last one. But one, we may not end on this note. But are you aware? Okay, it's, you know, you've shared, and I appreciate, you know, kind of probably more so on the positive sides of what, you know, the outcome of the choices I made, the choices Dad and I made. Are there anything that you're aware of, like, well, I'm definitely going to do this differently, or yeah, maybe I like that, but I might consider, you know, doing some things differently if you've already thought about that, or if you haven't, it's fine. But I wondered if there's any of those that have already bubbled to the surface.
I think something that I have thought of before, but I really don't know how I'm going to implement it. Just like first thing that would come to mind is for me, because we were so starkly not allowed to like have sugar at some points or have TV or something, like I would go to my friends' houses and just want to do those things. Or I reacted in the way that I would like get as much as I can wherever I could. And like I would hide watching TV in my bed or something, you know, because I couldn't do it. And then it just kind of became like more of an addiction maybe, because I was like, it felt so wrong and felt so like not allowed completely, even though yes, we would watch movies or like whatever. It just, I think I wouldn't crave or want it as much if there was more just a balance, or it wasn't so all or nothing is what I'm hearing. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, how can we do that differently? So it didn't make it like such a rebellious thing to go sneak off and have to do. No, that's great.
Yeah.
I totally get that one. We're going to have a healthy lifestyle. We're going to be conscious, you know, and it's like more kind of was out of scarcity and fear than discussions and balance. And how can we have some of that, but not overdo it? So yeah, I'm love you taking that on. You can definitely do that better.
Not going to be easy. Obviously, that balance seems like kind of impossible. Because I have friends who like only had junk food in their house and now they hate it and like didn't want it then. You know what I mean?
Reverse psychology. Yeah. I didn't know. Shoot.
I know. And like it was just always around. They were like, this is gross. And then, you know, they didn't want it. It's like, it's not as like fun and like rewarding and novel for them. So yeah, which is interesting. But who knows? It depends on the child. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add more before we close up?
I was just going to say, I think one thing that stuck me was the missing the prom thing. So just trying to find that good balance and knowing there will be difficult decisions, but wanting to make sure prioritizing important moments, which I think you did for the most part. But
yeah. Whether it's, you know, like making a different choice, but really having, you know, maybe was it possible to have a both and, or, you know, more something
more
that could have worked. Yeah. of something that's so
Right.
meaningful and to really like get each other, like, for me to really get why that meant so much to you instead of assume.
Yeah, the open communication part of it, I think, is important for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and we're going to wrap up here. And I just realized that I just got to take you to work day. So we got to celebrate because you're on my podcast and I took you to work. So it's kind of silly, but I just had that thought.
That works. Bring your daughter to work day.
Yeah, I just brought my daughters to work day. Yeah. You're never too old to come to.
You're never too old.
Never too old. Well,
getting the inside scoop.
Totally. Well, this has been a huge treat for me. Thank you both so much and being, honest and open. And I hope it's the beginning of I get to bring you to work more than just once a year on take your daughters to work day.
I agree.
There's other topics we want to bring to the forefront.
Awesome.
Super cool. Well, you guys have an awesome day. Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to subscribe to Mother. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women, well, actually everybody, men included. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com. I'll see you next time.